Puss in Boots and I are here. There she is right down yonder. Yeah, she's wanting me to pet her for the 20th time today. So what I'm about to do is hopefully, I don't think I can actually turn this thing around. Let's see if I can. Nope, can't. That's okay. Well, I'm going to bring you up to speed here real quick on the progress of this 1970 Ford Mustang Fastback. So today I ended up removing this trunk pan where the fuel tank goes a couple of more times, and then I ended up after I actually took it off, then I removed the unibody from that's on the jig itself, and I wanted to finish welding up what I had started when I channeled or sectioned or whatever you want to call the space needed in order to put the wider wheel tubs in. And so I took care of that. Everything got welded all the way across underneath on both sides. And then once that was in, I put the floor pan back in, fitted it, and I was having some difficulties with the alignment with this section here, because this is a stopping point as to weld the one up in the front. So I realized that I needed to bring the torque boxes up and even with that brace right there. And once I did that, and then everything fell in place. So at the same levelness of the jig is exactly the same with the rockers. So I got everything pretty much lined up, and then I actually, after I got everything lined up, cut and cleaned, and made sure that the wheel tubs fit in there nicely, then I finally just decided to place the quarter on just to see how it looks. And everything is just either screwed in or clamped in, as you could see some of the clamps, because it all has to come apart again anyway, because I have to start with the floor with the factory spot welds that go in all along. So it's, it's a lot easier once the sides are off, like you can see that one over there. But everything has to be fitted beforehand before you start welding, and even Puss in Boots will take. All right, I lost you there for a second, but I'm fitting this side. As you can see right there, I got to go along there. I got to do a little bit more trimming to get that and fit in there nice and flush. And once that's in there and fitting nice and flush, I'll make sure that all the points of interest like this is where it belongs. Down further, but in the meantime, I got to get that fitted correctly. So once that's done, then I'll get this thing to go down like it belongs. Right now it might be sitting up on edge. Let me see if I can get it to drop. Come on now, you know you want to. The front's in pretty good, and this is in part way enough to make sure it doesn't drop on me. Yep, that's the scoop. So you can also see the cowls in, the lower and the uppers are in. It's a project, it is for sure. And I tell you, if it wasn't for this factory made jig set up here, it would take a lot longer and be a lot more difficult. But as you can see, everything's all brand new, and it's going together nicely. And I just wanted to bring up one of the ways you can tell that it is a 1970. It doesn't have the louvers cut in here on the side. The 69, I know for sure, has it cut in there like it's, like an air duct type thing. It's a louver. I don't even know what the hell they call it, but that's a height. 70s don't have that, and the tail lights are much bigger in the back. So that is the second way you can get an idea on what year the car is. So tomorrow will be another day, and I'll be fitting that much better. And it definitely has to go down, because just looking at the height of this side versus that side, I know this has to drop down at least a half-inch, and it will settle in, and it will end up being the same height as the rest of it. The front's got to go down a little bit, but all is well. Looking forward to getting it all together. And keep in mind, it is for sale. And as you can see, being built, brand new, nicely, pretty like, solid, clean. And until tomorrow, stand by. All right, here I am the next day, and I am getting things lined up better. I got some core supports going across the top, front and back, and then later on, once both quarters are in, then this piece will go across to the other quarter. This is a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of take apart, put back together, a lot of measuring, lots of measuring, and it just requires every bit of that. What helps, I've mentioned this before, is the manufacturing jig for this type of application. So as I move along between using ratchet straps to force position on the unibody, the trunk, and also little bottle jacks to hold position for stuff like this, bringing up the torque boxes, and then also in the front, torque box with the jack, getting all this stuff to line up. It's, when you're doing it by yourself, is what I'm used to. I don't have a problem with that. I like, in some cases, to work by myself. Sometimes it is good to have another hand that has the same mentality, the same ability as you do. So I've gone this far, gotten this far. Quarter is on. Not that it's permanently on, because once I have everything fitted, including the doors, the fenders, which I have, they're in those boxes way over there and over there. Quarters, hoods, all that stuff. You know, once it all goes together, between some screws, some clamps, then I get to take it all apart, down to the trunk, to the firewall, the floor pan, leaving those in place, and then I get to spot weld them all in with the equipment that I have, which is way over on the other side, that I will be using to, just like the manufacturers, they kind of look like, they have different sizes, oversized clamps, the same format as this right here. They're 2 hot points, and that when it comes to, when you press the air on, it comes down, and the amount of heat generated between the 2 points starts to weld it. Sometimes you do it twice in the same spot, sometimes 3 times, as many times as it takes, and then take a hammer to it to make sure it doesn't come apart. Yep, that's the story on that. But I am moving along. I figured I would show more progress on the video, but this particular video, not I'm only going to use it on YouTube, which is Power Play Garage with the @ first, but I'm going to post it on my TikTok channel. I've explained those channels before, but the bottom line is the YouTube channel is at Power Play Garage. This is a 1970 Fastback Mustang, as you can see, slick Fastback. And I'm looking forward to getting it to that point of being finished, to where I can then sandblast the whole front piece of that, sandblast the rear section of that right there, and paint it. Well, basically prime it. I'm not painting anything unless someone pays me to paint it. But this piece will go in once I'm ready to put the front fenders on. I don't want to lose the character and the function and the squareness of the factory setup that came from the donor car, because as you can see, it is solid, definitely. I did change some of the unibody sections that needed to be changed, but all in all, she's a solid piece. Upper and lower cowls in, just tack, you know, as far as screws and clamps. And you can see the clamps up here for that piece. I still left it in the plastic I slid that piece out of the plastic, made it a little bit easier to handle. But that is the story. So until the next part, stand by. It is the next day and it is Friday, and I'm showing you this unit right here, Tekka. It is a welder, spot welder, joint welder. I don't know the official name for it. It has different length claws that go into it. There's the average size, and then there's another length that's down at the tray right there. And there's a gun style, this one. Yep, I haven't used this one yet. I don't see the need for it. I'd have to experiment. But what I just got done welding on is this curvature piece right here. It was tied on to these other pieces here. These are the hinges, actually for the bolts that are on the hinges, which go up here, and the A-pillar. And this piece right here ends up going on top of the wheel well, but on the other side. And that will get spotted on there too. Everything today is just like the rest of the days, is about getting everything spotted in and getting things out of the way like that. But it's come a long way. I had the roof setting down on there, and I just wanted to get that piece welded in because it needed to be in there. This will help making sure that everything I need to have in place will be in place. So I know the next thing I got to do is make sure that the wheel well is exactly where it's needed. So when it comes time to spot weld it in, then I'll be able to do that and get that out of the way. And there's the ground, I have it attached. You need that in order to weld it, just like any other welder or ground. So I'm not sure if I spoke of the tail piece going in. There's the quarter by itself, this inner, I forgot what it's called, piece, and then the tail pan where the lights, gas tank, all that stuff, and the bracket that's right there that gets mounted. Make sure it has to go there. That's where the bumper gets bolted onto. So here you go, here it is. This is called this is the actual lamp, tail lamp mounting panel, right side. And it is weld through primer, just as the rest of it is on here, the black and the silver. Yeah, so that took a while yesterday, setting all that up. Yeah, that wasn't easy. It took a lot of time, but I got it there. And being that that end is up, this end is up a little bit. And I have it clamped here in the front. I verified my measurements from here to here, and they're the same on both sides. And when I do take this roof panel off, I'm going to verify my cross measurements, make sure they're on point, and that'll tell me if 1/4 section of skeleton is further than the other, because you know, these pieces here are all one, just like that is all one. So, but when it comes to lining up the left with the right, that's how you'd be able to tell if it's squared up with each other. So that's going to be my point of interest today. I'm going to just verify it because the hood's not that hard to lift up and take off. And then once it is verified, I did it yesterday, but the hood is not, I should say the roof isn't 100%. It's like 98%. And I just want to verify it. And then I'm going to bolt on, I think the doors next. I'm going to try them. They're in the box. And then bolt the fenders on, which are in the box. Try to complete the whole thing, see what it looks like. Make sure doors are going to line up properly. Things of that nature. And then I'm also going to verify putting the glass set, just setting the glass in. Not going to be installing it. Definitely the windshield. I do have the rear glass. I think it's the same size. I'm not sure. I was told that it is, but we'll find out. I do have the trunk All that stuff that's over there has to be welded up onto this piece here. Things like that for the actual trunk hinges. There's a lot of stuff left to do. I want to get to it, make it all happen, but this is definitely a big time saver, because to drill a bunch of holes and start welding it with a MIG welder, that takes a lot of time. That reduces it a lot if you're able to get at it. So, but when you're already doing a car that just needs the floor in it and the whole body is still there, well, it's really tough to use that, because usually you can get the whole floor section all in one piece. That's kind of how you'd want it anyway. One from the bottom of the firewall all the way to the tail pan. And those will require more of this welding than that welding. So that requires more time and a little more process versus that right there. Equally effective, but that's just the way it is when you're doing that. But when you're building fresh and brand new like this one, and you take everything apart and you start all over, you have room to get in there, and if not, then in some areas you'll have to use that. That is definitely one of those things. So let me get back at it, and in the meantime, stand by. All right, we're gonna start off with a new video. Hopefully you see me, because I can't flip the camera for whatever crazy reason. And the new video is further along on the 1970 Ford Fastback Mustang. I got the two doors on. They're not lined up perfect. I don't need them to be perfect, because they're all going to be coming off anyway. But they're lined up pretty decent. I left the plastic on there. You know, they open and close, brand new doors. I'm going to have to sandblast the factory hinges, get the old rust killer on it. That was the passenger side. Now we're waltzing on over to the driver's side. And this one, actually, I have it lined up a little bit better. It seemed to go a little bit quicker and easier. And there it is. Yep. I'm gonna have to oil that up. Let's see about this. All right, so next I got the fenders, the brand new fenders out of the box, and then unwrapped off the other cardboard that they have wrapped around one. This one is the right side, and I'll show you how they come wrapped. They come in the big box, and then the extra cardboard around it, and that one is still in there, and you know, the string ties around the other piece there and kind of keeps it all nice and protected and gets cozy in the box. So I got a couple of bolts ready. Hopefully I got everything out of the way, and I'm going to try to slip that on without any issues, and at least just hold it in place just long enough to make sure there's no issues with it and that it'll line up nice. So I'm going to put you on the stand. Yep, let's see. Oh, that's wrong. Alrighty then. Well, I'm going to see if I can turn you around. I doubt it. Nope, it won't let me flip you around, so I'm going to turn it off, flip it around, set it up, and turn you back on, so stand by. Okay, here we are again. I'm going to grab that fender, and hopefully without anything getting in the way, obstructing it. I don't think there's anything in the way. And put it in place. Yep, there's two, I don't know, in the fender catches, they're removable like nuts. They're clasped in there. Two are ready. paint it there. There is a bracket that gets welded on there. I don't want to open the door, I don't want to dent anything. But it goes on the inner cowl, like almost like on the A-pillar, and it catches down here, I can't tell. Can't see with the plastic on here. I kind of want to leave the plastic on because it's got to go back in the box as I start to use it. Here we go. Now I can see what's going on. And it's missing a little clasp. That's it like that. A couple of those kind of latch-on type nuts. I do have a few. I did order some, but this is pretty much how it's going to go. Everything lines up pretty good, even though it's just kind of hanging on there by two bolts. I mean, you have it tightened down, but once that bottom one stays where it's got to stay, which is right there. And then this one goes right here. There's a fairly decent sized gap, so because I know the door's not lined up exactly perfect, this could probably come out some on the A-pillar away. Even the door gap over here. It's pretty decent. It's not perfect, but I just want to make sure I can get everything lined up pretty nice. And make sure there's nothing in the way. Prohibiting this doing right. This is really nice. You don't see anything wrong with it, no dents, not even a scratch. They shouldn't for what they cost. They're all brand new. So, trying to peel all this out like that. That would go in there like that. Make sure it doesn't pass the door. So, let's see here. Yeah, I think I have to slightly bend this corner right here on the fender because of this part of the A-pillar here is keeping it out. It's only keeping it out an eighth of an inch. Yeah. And then I think I should probably try to line up the doors better. I should try to bolt all this up pretty darn good. Well, the good thing is, when it comes to the skeleton of this side panel here, it's all been constructed by the company which actually bought the dies, I believe. That's what I was told. Dynacorn ended up with the dies from Ford to stamp these things out. I think. I could be totally wrong. I was told that a few years ago. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But if it is true, the good thing is I didn't have to put the inner skeleton of this Fastback inner panel here, whatever you might want to call it, I didn't have to put it together. So, and it's all, been factory spot welded in place. And the measurements seem to be pretty good because the door, which is a brand new door, fits in there pretty good. The opening from the A pillar to the B pillar, and the same thing on that side. It's just that door got a little easier because, it had a little heads up from this door, and it made that one go a little faster installing it. So, and in the meantime, I just want to get this thing together, knowing that I got to take it apart. If there was any crazy changes like there were for the rear quarter section over here, you had to make some changes with the wheel wells because I put wider tubs in there than what came with this before, so that if somebody wanted to put wider tires on there, they got room. So, that's an added expense to this, but it makes it more desirable, and that's why you saw the work that I did on the unibody underneath, channeling it so that everything would fit. So knowing all of that, that is really the only, I'd say, drastic change, but it wasn't a change that would alter the quarter section, because after the hood went on, it's another way of telling you that if the hood lines up, I shouldn't say the hood, the roof lines up, which it does, the gaps are the same, everything fell into place, then it must be telling you that the right side and left side are square of each other, because I did have to make sure it was square. I ran diagonal measurements, and it was a 16th difference, which technically it's a 32nd out, which to me, I think it's in, because you never really know where everything was, spot welded together from the factory. Is it on point 100%, which it's probably not. So, but knowing that everything fell into place really good, I know all this fell into nice, included everything else, there shouldn't be any problems. So, and the good thing is the door, the front part of the door, opens to the inner part of the fender. It doesn't come out and past the fender, which actually is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. My 57, I think, comes out past the fender. Now, if need be, if for whatever strange reason I needed more room, which I doubt it, between the quarter and the door, right here, I think that because the pillar right here can flex a little bit, if I really needed to move it a 16th of an inch, which it's really not a lot. It might seem like a lot or sound like a lot, but it's really not a lot. In favor of the door having a beautiful gap, and it's bringing it more this way to create that gap in the front really nice, then so be it. But I don't see that having to happen. All I can tell is that the door has to come up, has to be lifted up, which then actually helps the fender on the bottom part. On the bottom part of that fender right down there, it would actually help that if the door went up, because then it's shifting the bottom towards the quarter, because the door needs to go up. And holding this position right here leaves me a comfortable gap. And even if it did tighten up a little bit, it's not going to affect anything, because I probably have, might be 3/16 of an inch, but as it goes down it gets tighter. So, I have room to flex, basically. My concern is that it fits, it bolts on, which it does. I've got 2 bolts in there, right here in the center. I think they're golden. It matches up good here in the front, radiator support, and it also has to go on here, which will go on afterwards. The headlight, that's not really important when it comes to refit everything, so I'm not worried about that. So, in the meantime, I'm going to play around with this door a little bit. I'm going to take that fender off, but not first until I put the other fender on in place and see what that looks like, considering that door is lined up a lot better than this one. And in the meantime, make sure everything's going to work out. Fold this in a little bit, and hopefully everything works. And maybe if I can get these things in place nicely, maybe I'll grab the hood and put that on. We'll see. We're gonna see how that works out. But in the meantime, stand by. I'm back, and that went a whole lot faster and a whole lot easier. It pretty much just fell right into place. Yep. It's right here. It's right here. It's very little adjustment will be made. It fell right into the bottom, right where it needed to be. Everything lines up pretty darn nice. Yeah, you get you fixed there. You don't want any problems. I got to get a new stand for this. Yep, got you. There we go. Hopefully the wind don't blow this thing over. Yeah, you put you back here. And this way the rear will help keep it in place. That's right. Okay. Yeah, I got 3 bolts in here. Snug a little bit. I even left this top piece in here that I had to drill out in order to get the cowl to move forward more. And yeah, considering that the doors lining up pretty good, shouldn't be a problem. It fell into place. I don't even have a bolt in on the bottom. I don't have any bolts in here in the front on the radiator support, which is going to get changed anyway. But darn, I love it. Yep. I don't believe I'll have a problem with the hood either, because the 3 bolts went right into place, just like the 2 over there. It's just that I'm missing one of those clip nuts. I don't even know what in the world they're called. But, yep, fell in there real nice. Very pleased with it. And the one thing I did note that I have to do, which I will point out, which I will do when when I'm actually welding this all in, I did notice that I could bring down this part of the quarter down, I think, 1/8 of an inch. I believe 1/8 of an inch more. These body lines here are about that much off. But seeing as how this section right here where my fingers are can go down, and I got the clearance to do it, and considering the gap that's on the bottom here of this quarter that lines up with the lower rocker, that gap there, it needs to be a little tighter. So that 1/8 of an inch will shift this down, tighten up the seam down here on the rocker and the quarter, and it'll just fall right into place. Yep, I'm digging it. Absolutely. So all is well so far. Maybe by the end of this week I can have this thing at least welded together for the most part. If not, by the beginning of next week. I think it's doable. It's possible. I'm hoping so. Yeah. And that'll be that. The challenge is going to be the trunk deck with the hinges for the trunk that came off the donor car, getting them in place on here, and that would be after this section is put in. This part here is for the Fastback. That's that. And this goes in there. Right alongside the wheel tubs, wheel wells. It goes in there. Let's see if I can put it in place. Because I know I can open the door. Let's see what happens. exactly where these two stones and house is. I might have to see sections of it off first. Yeah, I want to keep monkeying around with it. We're going to do some homework on that, some investigation. Figure out exactly how that piece goes in. I know there isn't a lot of trunk space on these things. Maybe it comes back further. Or maybe over in this part. I'm not really sure. So, I have to figure that out. I imagine there's got to be enough room in order to get the fuel tank in and out. I'm sure that would be something that is considered, because I've actually taken the tank out of older Mustangs before to replace them. So we'll see. So in the meantime, let me get back to this mess, and once I have things a little more fitted and in line, or if I'm taking it apart, I'll chime back in, so stand by. Alright, here we are again. It's the next day, Tuesday, and I've been making changes all morning. And some of the changes, because I'm not liking the way it's fitting 100%. I know everything about the car. Aftermarket, even though it's Dynacorn, it's not 100%. And though I'm using the front clip as far as just the, say, engine bay area, which came from Ford factory back in 1970, even that wasn't 100%. You know, if they took the time, accuracy with measurements, it was pretty good, but maybe it could have been better. Who knows? So I've had both fenders off, driver side, passenger side. I've also been able to move this front clip away from the main part of the car about 3/16 of an inch. Might not seem like a lot, but for the lineup, it is a lot. It was awesome, and I probably should have done it when I was trying to get the windshield to fit in here the way it should have been. The space between where it would sit on the bottom versus the top. And at the same time, fit it in the doors. The doors fit okay, you know, maybe better than the factory. Who knows? But it wasn't liking that either, because the door, as far as I'm concerned, could have gone back towards the quarter a little bit to help for the front fenders to line up better, to give me the gap that I need. And because this one isn't in 100%, we're going to go around to the other side. And that even fits much better than yesterday, doing what I've done. And keeping in mind, this is aftermarket brand new fender, aftermarket brand new door. And, you know, the accuracy with them is not 100%. So this body line we got going over here, this gap, is pretty awesome. Pretty much from the upper body line down, follows the same all the way through. And even to the second little curve, or the other body line on the door, it starts to open up a little bit. And then it tightens up over here. And that's because of the fender, maybe, and maybe a little bit of the door. But a call. So I got to take this call. I'll be back. Alrighty, that was an important call. So we're back. And as I was saying, the distance here, I know it might be hard to see, but the gap between the panel of the door to the A-pillar, it's about 1/4 of an inch. And on the other side, it's the same. But the distance, say, between where my finger is here and the gap to the A-pillar on the inside is probably 3/8, maybe 7/16 max. But if I measure even from this corner out to the edge of the door, it's probably about the same. But when I go to the other side, it is not the same. It's too much difference for my flavor. Way too much. Well, sort of, kind of way too much. The gap, like I said, here is the same, 1/4 inch. But the distance between this part of the door and the A-pillar, you're looking at 3/16. And the distance from the edge of the door to the corner of the A-pillar is probably 5/8, maybe more, 11/16. So I needed the door, as far as I was concerned, to go back towards the quarter. Originally, there wasn't enough room. Keeping in mind this original inner skeleton, it was all already done, put together. I've mentioned that before. But I had to tweak a couple of things here in the corner because that corner piece right here wasn't on that side. I had to weld it on, and I welded it to fit firmer and more correct probably than this side. Not sure. But I had ended up taking the quarter off. And once I had it off, I repositioned the bigger, wider wheel well. I repositioned it a little bit more. I brought it up a little bit. That meant I had to cut the inner part where it mounts to the inner skeleton. I had to take maybe a blade width off, not a lot, but just to kick it up. And by kicking up that inner panel, creates a gap in the back here where I needed it. So when I slide the quarterback, which I had room based on the space between this flange and the skeleton, I had that much room to move back, which then opened up the gap on the door to the corner at least 1/8 of an inch, which gives me a little bit more room to pull the door back. And I'll feel comfortable with that. And actually, I really won't have to pull the thing back because I have it set up higher than it's supposed to be. I will let it tilt down, which at that point, then the body lines should line up a lot better. My gap on the bottom here at the rocker and the quarter lines up nice. So that will line up better. So after I have my lunch, because it's just about that time, I will loosen that hinge up and make that happen. In the meantime, yesterday I noticed, and I have to show you by taking this fender off, which got to come off anyway. Yep, take this stuff off. And we'll place you here. Just move this out of the way. Put this somewhere safe. Okay, so these are the original hinges from the 70. So what I had noticed is that this bar, it acts as a, not so much a spring point, but a locking point of some sort when it comes to these rollers here. So this goes in here, and then that goes in there like that, and then this, it's got to go up there so that it locks in place. But what I noticed was it was broke at the bottom. So I welded it up, and now it's solid. It's the way it's got to be, because it was easy to line up because of the way it initially broke. So I got to clean it up some so that I have an easier time getting this in place. Yeah, I'll have an easier time. So my movement now is going to be to loosen these and let this drop down some. Keep in mind, these hinges won't look like this for long. When I start sandblasting the front end components, I'm going to sandblast the hinges because it all has to come apart like I mentioned before, and they'll get primed with the rust killer. Yep, from HQ. Yep, auto paint. I like those guys. Yes. Anyway, that'll give me the room I need to bring this back, which then will help line these points up better, a lot closer. And if it is a lot closer, maybe it's not 100%, but considering the concept of all these aftermarket parts, should be beautiful. And by moving this clip forward a little bit, that helps with other things that I've noticed, like putting in the emergency brake setup. It was almost touching the firewall, so now I'll have a gap because it's needed of that gap. So certain things, you know, as I'm going along, you measure. That's all I can tell you. I have a tape measure on handy, and I did do that. Again, with the rear window open, it is the same throughout on both sides, and the opening on the trunk is the same. And I think this is 15 and a half or 15 and a quarter. Whatever it is, it's on the same side, same size on both sides, as well as I think 30 or 31 and 3/4 from up there to down here. It's even on both sides. And this, I was playing around with this backrest earlier before I started taking things apart, and that piece is pertinent to the back section of this Fastback. This section right here ends up going underneath this cross piece right here. Yeah, it all mounts there, and then it curves over, and it ends up in this neck of the woods right here. That really can't go in until afterwards, so that you know, you can get to line it up properly with all this other stuff. And let's see, yeah, once that goes in, that'll add a little more structure to this panel here, even though it's pretty strong because of the way it's bent. But that definitely enhances that. And it also allows me my hinge mounting points. And I got to find out if this style setup here on these hinges that I took off the donut car is the same. What exactly will I have to change? Hopefully I'll be able to use them. If I don't get to use them, not a big deal. Just buy new ones. They are pretty solid and great shape. But they mount, I don't know if you can see it on those parts there. There's one on either end. So all that being said, it's been another trying morning for basically 3 hours, but it's getting there, you know, and it's the reason why you don't weld anything together as you're first starting to build a car. At least I wouldn't. That wouldn't be my way of doing it. You know, between all these clamps and screws, sheet metal screws, self-tappers, it's the best way to go, because if you weld them in place, you're going to get stuck. You really are, I think. So you buy yourself an assortment of clamps, different styles, depths, all configurations, and it'll help you lock everything in place with that, with the screws. See, even right here, even though I got a clamp up there, I got a screw right here to help keep this panel in place, just as I've done right here. And I made sure that the inner skeleton has come over and has matched on both sides, and they do. So, you know, you got to work all that stuff, bring it together, use clamps, big channel locks, whatever it takes, and go from there. And the fact that my concrete's pretty level, having things level and using a level, going off of the jig should be the same as going off the rocker, and they are. So, yeehaw, yeehaw. It's been definitely fun. And actually, with me moving this channel further, or this whole front section, it helped line up it will bring it, you can see the gap that is created, and bringing that forward actually makes up the difference between the lip on the firewall and this plate that's on the inner skeleton. So I'm really pleased with all that, you know, and then once that takes place, then I'll be able to, you know, spot weld these or just weld them in place once I start welding everything back, just to reassure the hookup on there. And that's going to be that. And see, I used a little ratchet strap to pull it forward, and the engine mounted area, let me move this where it belongs, mounts up nice. It's kind of hard to tell what I'm doing here, holding the phone the opposite, but anyhow, I think I'm more accurate now than I was yesterday. And once I drop this door down on that top end and brings it down, it'll line this stuff up, and as long as it lines all up, that'll be nice. I could load up the doors with the windows for the weight concept, but you know, when you're buying these things and they come as a shell, they don't come loaded with the windows. I like the idea of having that weight in there because, you know, it could change things just a little bit, and that little bit can make the difference between, you know, winning the Riddler Award versus winning maybe second place or third place or fourth place at the SEMA show. But anyhow, we'll get her there. And because I do have the door glass and the mechanisms for it, and the door handles I got the trim for this to go up and around here. So there's a lot of benefits to what this car is going to have, and even considering the price. Starting price is going to be $50,000, in case y'all want to know, because as you can see, it's a brand new car, and it has a title, a Florida legal, legitimate, check it out for yourself title. Yep. And the original VIN numbers are, as I mentioned in other videos, if you haven't seen them, they are stamped here, right along the this where the coil springs go, towards the outside of it. There's one over there, and then there's one that goes over there, which I have. And actually, there are holes, little holes for the certain type of rivet. These two right here. Now, what you're supposed to do is, when you take it off the donor car, that thing is like a little spring-like thing. Seems like a little plate, and you cut 2-inch parameter all the way around, and you weld it. You cut this out 2 inches all the way around, and you weld that original factory piece in there. But what I've discovered, and I did cut out way more than 2 inches because just wanted to be sure. Now I have that piece here somewhere. I will find it because I needed to take everything off the boxes. Okay, where'd you go? I know you're here. Where did you go? Come on now. Where'd you go? Still trying to find it. Here's the trunk thing. Oh, I know it's here somewhere. I'm going to find it. I'm going to show you how much I cut off. Or did I put it on the floor? Where'd you go? I'm going to find you. I will find you. I'm a lot more organized than this. Let's see. Or did I put it out here? Because I don't see it on that tray. I had it on those boxes, but I needed to get in those boxes. So, where are you? Oh, just terrific. And I know they're not on the boxes because I had to get into them. Or, where'd I put you? Over here. Here it is, where the other parts are. These are the other Mustang parts. You see, so this side here, let me get into the light. Okay, this is the spring-like piece of metal. There's the VIN number on there, and there's a rivet there and over there. And this is probably about 2¼ inches away. And this is probably closer to 3½ inches away. And this is where the factory thing would end. And on this side, well, as you could tell, it's pretty well rotted out, you know. So I'm going to call another qualified builder and ask him about this, what I do in this case, considering that the majority of it is rotted out. There's nothing to re-weld onto the front of the upper cowl. So, you know, this belongs here. This is, where did this stupid thing go? Did it go like this? Yeah, I think it went like this. No, it went like this. Yeah, this was here. Went right there. So even though those 2 holes are there, it doesn't actually line up where it's supposed to go. So I gotta ask him about that, see what he says. I'm sure he'll have valid, correct information for me. If he says to repair this, then I'll repair it. And once it's repaired, I'll cut 2 inch all the way around, except for maybe from that rivet to here is 2 inches, it looks like it. And once I repair it and make it, then I can cut that out. But in the meantime, I'm not going to do anything with this. I don't want to ruin it. And it is a rivet. And you can see it's the kind of special kind of rivet. Rivet. So maybe he'll give me 2. And I'll put this where it belongs over here. And I think let's see, if any hole's gonna line up, it'll be this one to this right here, and then it's just a matter of a hole right over there, and that'll be that. But this will go where it needs to go. So until then, let me get things moved around. I want to go have some lunch. I'm still a growing boy, absolutely. Until then, stand by.